In the UK, the single biggest killer amongst men under 35 is suicide. Although research has shown that women are more likely to be diagnosed with a mental health illness. This silent crisis is nothing new, but it's not to say that the statistics are getting any better for men's mental health. I'm going to be meeting with a variety of different men of all ages to determine how having a mental illness has affected their life and what can be done to fight the stigma. I'm Anna Christina Jackson, a presenter and counsellor in the mental health sector. Ever since I was young, I struggled with OCD, which made it hard for me to get on with my everyday life. I know firsthand just how much of a significant impact having a mental illness can make to a person's life. First of all, I'm meeting with master student Ben Hammond, who ever since he was young has battled with depression and personality disorder, although has found it hard to receive the right treatment for his mental health. What age were you when you first kind of realised that you had depression?
So I was probably in year 11 when I first realised, and then I was 15, and I didn't really feel comfortable talking to my parents about it. So I spoke to one of my best friends and a teacher that I trusted, and basically got referred to NHS CAMHS, and then went to the GP and got diagnosed and went from there.
What did those guys do to help you?
So I went for a psychiatric evaluation, at which I was told there was nothing wrong with me. Went back to my GP, who completely disagreed with the evaluation and sent me back, in which I then started a course of psychotherapy that lasted for about a year and a half. And then when things kind of got bad again at university, in my second year, I had to go back to the community mental health team because I was too old to go through CAMHS. And that service was so drastically underfunded and oversubscribed that it wasn't very useful.
When it took a long time for you to get seen after you're 18, what did you do?
And so I went to the GP, who referred me to the community mental health team in Winchester. I was then diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, something which is kind of not understood that well now. Myself, sometimes I don't understand it. But I was discharged after, basically after one session, because I wasn't at risk. So I was then put on various medication, right the way up until now, really, where I've actually found something that I'm settled into. But it also, I researched and got involved with the Mind Matters scheme. So you phone up, you self-refer, and then you have counselling over the phone, which actually really helped me.
Luckily, Ben has found a way to manage his mental health issues and get back on track with living his own life. But this isn't the case for everyone. So I'm meeting with mental health advocate Andy Bishop, who is using his occupation to help others since he struggled to speak out when battling bipolar disorder. Where did it all start with your mental health diagnosis?
My first diagnosis happened in about 2006. I wasn't feeling too good. I went to see the doctor. I was told to go and see the doctor by my boss at the time. And I was diagnosed with suffering from an episode of clinical depression. That was while I was serving in the army based in Germany. When I received that diagnosis, because of the uniform that I was wearing, because of the job that I was doing, I literally walked out of the doctor's office and I screwed up the sick note and denied it. I denied it to my bosses, but most importantly, I denied it to myself, which in hindsight was the start of my journey to self-destruction. I couldn't accept that me, with all my army training, I'd been in several war zones. I'd been served in Northern Ireland, in Bosnia, in Iraq. I'd been all over the world with the military in some quite hairy situations. So how could this be happening to me? It took a big incident when I basically couldn't leave my room one morning. I was supposed to be teaching some school kids on a look at Army life course. I was supposed to be taking them out to do some explosive training. I was in my uniform, I even had my rucksack on, and I physically could not leave my room to go out and do this job that I love doing. And my friend, who I happened to be working with that day, because I hadn't turned up on parade, he came and saw me, and I was crying. I was just in a snotty mess on the top of the stairs. and he took me then to see the doctor. So that afternoon I was put into a psychiatric hospital where I spent 8 weeks. But there was one really poignant moment there when a retired army officer, he was a retired lieutenant colonel, he told me as a soldier what was going on and that it wasn't weak to be feeling the way that I was. And I think that's what I needed to hear.
So kind of leading on from that, what are you doing in your current day-to-day job to help others? Because I know that you're doing quite a lot in regards to other businesses.
So, as a business, I'm a health and safety consultant by trade now. This the job that I do, and health and safety is all about keeping people safe and healthy while they're at work. We offer a course here. It's a one-day course that we've developed in-house, which is all about occupational stress. Stress is something that we can control. Stress is something we can identify, and we can identify as a risk within business. And we quite successfully market that, and we open that up to any business. It's aimed at managers, it's aimed at setting the tone from the top, so it's all about prevention rather than the mental health first aid kind of stuff, which is all about being there when somebody is in crisis, which we also offer as well. And if we're paying that kind of lip service to the health effects that will kill you as a matter of course, then we entirely pay lip service to mental health, which is something I'm trying to change. I'm on a one-man crusade to share my message that it's not weak to speak.
I'm still yet to understand how mental health can reach breaking point in someone's lives, to the extreme of committing suicide, just like thousands of others in the UK every year.
With men and mental health, I think this is one of the areas that we need a great deal more work on, because one of the things we know is the biggest killer of men under the age of 50 is suicide. Men between the ages of 20 and 55 are at the greatest risk of taking their own lives. And one of the reasons this is that because men may get to a position where they're beginning to doubt their own minds, they're struggling with their emotions, they're struggling with their anxieties, and society dictates that they shouldn't really talk about these things. What that then means is men are getting to a position where they find there's very little option left than to attempt to take their own life. And I think there is this sort of image that, men need to hide their emotions and big boys don't cry. Well, actually, if you're able to put that aside and just focus on what you need to have for yourself, then it's going to be a lot better for you in the long run.
One person who may be able to shed some light on this is Ben West, who tragically lost his younger brother to suicide just over a year ago. Ben's brother Sam struggled with depression, and although he was able to receive a lot of help from mental health services, he was afraid of how others around him would react to him having a mental illness.
So it was around September time, and I was in the kitchen, and my brother had just left the kitchen, and my mum came up to me and was like, can I just have a word? Sam's been really struggling, and he's been diagnosed with clinical depression. I was very much of the mindset that mental health was not this massive problem that it is, and I kind of went, okay, what's the big deal? And that was really my experience of it, and then that was all I really heard of it until the night that he died. So yeah, I didn't really have any sort of appreciation for what he was going through, and he found out that I'd been told, and he then became quite angry at my mum for telling me, because he didn't really want anyone to know what he was going through, because he felt like people would treat him differently, and he felt like I would treat him differently. And I would have done, because he would have been looking out for him a little bit more. But I think he expected people to treat him differently in that he's then labelled, and he's kind of labelled as a bit weird, and he's got something wrong with him, and he thought maybe he'd be discriminated against by me and people at school. So he became quite angry at my mum for telling me. He kept it to his close friends. So I think the only people that really knew what he was going through was my mum, my dad, his psychologist, and a couple of his friends. And that was really it. So it really hit our community massively when this happened, because no one saw it coming.
Did you notice any changes before your mum told you about this?
So he became quite secluded, and he changed a little bit. But a lot of us just put it down to puberty and being a teenager. And it's really difficult. Like when we're talking about teenage mental health, where's the line between what's normal and you're just going through puberty and it's just your brain rewiring, and what's actually becoming a problem or the start of something that's quite serious. So for me and I know for my mum, it was just what's normal and what's actually the problem here.
Just kind of carrying on from that, what advice would you give to other people in a similar situation who might think that they know someone going through depression or anything like that? What advice would you give them?
So I think the best thing that you can do is just be normal around them, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for someone to confide in, but they're not looking for someone that's going to just look at every little detail of their life and critique it all. And I think the first thing you've got to do is just be their friend, because that's what they're looking for in that time. It's a really difficult time for people to go through, and I think just being there for people and being that norm in their life is really, really important.
Since his brother's death, Ben has started raising awareness to help people speak about their struggles with mental illness, and has even set up his own campaign. What's this project that you've set up?
Okay, so 3 weeks after Sam died, I sent a message to our group chat of my friends going, I really want to do something to raise awareness for teenage mental health, and I want to raise money for our charity that we set up, the Sam West Foundation. And we had a bit of a discussion, threw some ideas out there, and I kind of went, right, let's do a walk. It was a 200-kilometre walk from where we lived in Cranbrook in Kent to Canterbury and then to London to finish in the Houses of Parliament. And we raised about £15,000. We had about 450 people walk with us along the route, and we ended it with a letter from Theresa May.
Ben's story was truly inspiring, hearing how the death of his brother turned his whole world upside down. Over the past week, I've met many inspiring people, and I've learnt that just by being kinder in the community, we can help to fight the stigma around mental health and stop many young men from reaching the point of suicide.